alert. This comes after at least 50 people were killed and 60 others abducted in a brutal attack on a mosque and nearby homes on Tuesday. The assault took place in the remote community of Ongowan Mantao as worshippers gathered for dawn prayer. Gunmen on motorcycles opened fire inside the mosque before moving through the village, setting homes ablaze and abducting women and girls. Channel Africa correspondent Jonathan James Liam says the community staged a protest shortly after the attack.
The community dwellers who survived the attack actually came out in protest and barricaded the highway that passes through the town. And their major grievance was protesting about the fact that government needs to do something about the insecurity situation, because as at that time, no security presence had even gotten to that community.
The site's intelligence group says Al-Qaeda-linked militants have killed 21 soldiers during coordinated attacks in Mali. The jihadist organization says it captured 2 soldiers, seized 15 military vehicles and more than 50 weapons during wide-scale operation. Yesterday, Mali's army declined to provide a toll, but says its outpost in Farabougou and Biriki came under a simultaneous attack on Tuesday. Sego, a strategic hub in south-central Mali, has seen repeated clashes between jihadist groups, government forces and allied militias amid a year-long insurgency that has spread across the Ad Sahel region. The provincial government in the Gauteng province in South Africa today is engaging residents of Soweto in the south of Johannesburg as part of its G20 Summit Awareness Program. The aim of the session is to brief the community about the summit, which is scheduled for November in Johannesburg. The provincial government is also raising awareness on the significance of the gathering for South Africa and the potential benefits for township communities. Gauteng government spokesperson Vuyo Maga.
For example, within these butler communities, you'll find that there are, CCTV cameras that will obviously be there, even post, the Leaders Summit, and a lot of work around the street lighting, the making sure that we surface the roads, is to also engage them. Some of the, inconveniences that they will actually experience, like the closures of the roads and all that. And also, one of the things that we're doing what we call the tourism package of Gauteng. So when you're in Gauteng, what else do you want to see? So if you actually attend a meeting, it ends at 1 o'clock. Where else can you go?
Lastly, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the latest massive Russian bombardment of his country. He says it has been carried out as if the world is not making efforts to stop the war. Zelensky says more than 570 drones and 40 missiles have been used. The BBC's Katie Watson.
The whole of the country was affected by this most recent wave of Russian attacks. An air raid alert that began late last night continued into early this morning. It's not often that airstrikes reach as far as Lviv, which is in the west of Ukraine, close to the Polish border. The deadly drone and missile attack there also damaged houses. An American electronics manufacturer in the west was also hit, causing further casualties.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, East Africa has shown it can compete with the rest of the continent, while Coco Gauff splits with coach as the US Open looms. I'll have details of these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, it is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. We are coming to you live on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an open view channel 6 to 8, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 4 406 9126, hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And today on hashtag Africa Update Us, the United States has announced additional sanctions on new officials of the International Criminal Court, with the State Department designating 2 judges and 2 prosecutors attached to the Hague-based court. Now, our question to you is the move to sanction the 4 ICC officials warranted? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126, hashtag Africa Update Us.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
The KZN Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and City of Umhlatuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investment in trade in services sectors such as tourism. Join us for TIFA 2025 from August the 27th to the 29th at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay in the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and the City of Umhlatuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 9 minutes after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The United States has announced additional sanctions on new officials of the International Criminal Court, with the State Department designating 2 judges and 2 prosecutors attached to the Hague-based court. The move follows similar actions targeting 4 ICC judges by the United States in June, in response to what Washington views as ongoing threats to American and Israelis from the court. Now, the officials have also been targeted for authorizing investigations into U.S. personnel in Afghanistan. And for more on this, Cletus Sifri, a political analyst, joins us on the line. Cletus, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu, and the team there.
Now, Cletus, what do you make of this latest act by the U.S. government?
I think it is a slap on the face of international justice. It is a shame to law and order. And most importantly, it is a disgrace for the United Nations, who works hand in hand with the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and the United Nations that host the UN Security Council, that together worked with the ICC to build a society, to build a world where we will be able to fight against genocide warlords like Netanyahu and his former Minister of Defense. And the United Nations is hosted in New York, in the United States. And it happens at the time when it is the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who have come up to sanction 4 important judicial experts because they took a very candid decision to hold Netanyahu, his former Minister of Defense, and other U.S. political right wings who have decided to turn Gaza into a war zone. And of course, they are warlords. The ICC was formed in 2002. The United States, being a hypocrite state, did not ratify the Rome Statute. They signed in 2000, but they failed to ratify it, and they walked out in 2002. And so, just like China and Russia, the United States are not even members of the ICC, but they act upon the ICC when it suits them, and the international community, together with myself, we say it is a blatant slap in the face of ICC judges, and we stand against it and denounce it from all levels of the political atmosphere.
Now, Cletus, let's be honest. Is this really a surprise with regards to the way the U.S. has already acted before, where in June, there were similar actions targeting 4 ICC judges by the U.S. Is this really surprising?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, Lulu. It is not a surprise at all, because the UN has acted when it pleases them, and they have acted when it doesn't please them against the ICC. Remember that George Bush in 2002 withdrew the U.S. from from ratifying the ICC statute. The U.S. have sometimes supported the work of the ICC when it suits them. When it suits them, they supported in 2005 the Sudan, where they had to pursue al-Bashir for crimes against humanity and for war crimes and as a genocide warlord. They also supported in 2011 the ICC and the UN Security Council when they chased Gaddafi and they brutally murdered a Pan-African leader in Libya. The US supported financially, judicially, and many other ways to say that al-Bashir and Mohammed Gaddafi are put in prison and assassinated accordingly. So when it suits the U.S., they will support the ICC, but when it doesn't suit them because their political ally, Israel, which is, of course, the 51 states of the United States, is another star on the flag of the U.S., they will come against the ICC with all they have. These sanctions are very brutal, and they are going to impede on the work of the ICC prosecutors because they are going to freeze their accounts. It means they can't do any financial transaction. They are going to seize their assets. It means they are not allowed to stay in the U.S., of course, when your asset is seized. And they are going to not allow them visitations when they are doing their job through visa blockage. This is totally condemned, and the U.S. should be ashamed of itself.
Now, Cletus, in response to this move, the United Nations says it's very concerned over these new U.S. sanctions targeting the ICC, as this action, as you've already touched on, undermines the judicial independence. Now, do you think the U.S. cares much about what the UN has to say?
Of course, the UN has valid concerns at the United Nations that represents more than 190 countries of the world. The United Nations stands as the prayer for peace and security. But the UN has very little to say because, remember, it is hosted in New York. Until the UN moved from New York, probably here in Africa or in South America, because these are the two continents that its people have not attacked or killed or brutalized the international community to become warlords. These are continents which Africa, for example, have always been the victim of international crimes, from slavery to colonialism. And so the fact that the UN is in the US and more than 50% of the United Nations budget is paid by the United States, the staff, 90% of the staff of the United Nations stay in America. It therefore shows that the UN has got very little to do. It is sabotage when the US wants it. The US ignores it when it wants to. It makes a mockery of the United Nations, and it laughs at the United Nations. And the United Nations that is trying all its best to endeavor peace and security in the world. Look at Gaza. Gaza is a genocide, and Netanyahu is a genocide warlord, together with his defense ministers and all the Israeli military forces. But you will look at the work that has been done by the ICC judges. They have now been, in a way, asked to pack their backs out of the United States. And it doesn't look good for international justice. And again, it is a shame that this has been done. And if I had the powers, if we do have the powers like the civil society organizations, we have to appeal that the United Nations be moved away from USA and brought to Africa or to South America, where we think the victims are there and the ICC will be more safer.
Well, Cletus, we have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. It's Cletus Sifri, political analyst, joining us on the line. It is 17 after 12 Central African time.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, brings you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum, Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investments in the trade services sector, such as tourism. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa. Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa One. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa One. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is 20 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our 4 members of the Basotho Convention Covenant Movement, in Lesotho, were shocked to see their faces posted all over social media for crimes that they claim they were not aware of. It comes as the leader of the movement awaits his bail application to be heard. Many believe that Dr. Tshepo Dipolo's arrest is related to his recent appeal to the United Nations regarding Lesotho's long-standing territorial grievances. And to elaborate further on this, we are joined on the line by Advocate Borena Bokete Bodlebosele Sikonyela, who is heading up the team overseeing the case. Advocate Sikonyela, I hope I did not butcher your name. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Well, the name is long, so but well done.
Oh, thank you for that. Now, Advocate, going back to Dr. Dipolo's submitted an appeal to the United Nations, directly to the UN. Tell us about this appeal and why the United Nations.
Yes, I think that's really the core. You see, this is a long struggle for Basotho from the 60s. Basotho have been claiming that South Africa has conquered their land. And it has been a trump card for most of the political parties in the country the BCP. Now, the land that is being claimed is 240,000 square kilometers, as opposed to the 30,000 square kilometers that constitutes the present Lesotho. So when the BCM, Basotho Covenant Movement, under the leadership of Dr. Dipulo, entered Parliament, the 11th Parliament, the Constitution, Section 1 of the Constitution provides that the country, the Parliament, shall declare some of the boundaries that actually constitute the country. So he made a motion in terms of parliamentary privileges for the reclaiming of the land, that the Parliament should actually declare the boundaries of this 240,000 square kilometers, which is actually the outstanding land. But the motion was rejected. When the motion was rejected, it was then he had no other way, because government of Lesotho specifically distanced itself from the claiming of the land. The allegation was that we don't want to claim our land because we are going to be, South Africa is going to be hostile to us. Now, guess what? Majority of people are for the claiming of the land. And secondly, the kind of treatment that South Africa is giving Basotho in that country is amazingly appalling. They are imprisoned, they are tortured, they are called illegal immigrants in their own land. So it was amazing how they could, the Lesotho government could say that they have good relations with South Africa. Anyway, that was the reason why he had to go back to the people and the Basotho in South Africa, inside South Africa and outside South Africa, said gave him the mandate that he must go to the UN. The other thing which was surprising was that when the government of Lesotho said that the Lesotho government, South African government was going to be hostile to them, it is also in the light of the fact that, contrary to the fact that the claiming restitution of land is a legal path in South Africa under the Restitution of Land Rights Act of 1994. Many of the tribes and the peoples in South Africa have actually been restored the land that has been taken by colonialism. So that is the real basis of why he had to go and enforce the petitions that were sitting in the United Nations for 62 years, from the 1962 and 1963, and nobody could petition, the enforcement of those petitions. But he had the status to go in.
Now, Advocate Sikonyela, just touch on the areas or the land that is being claimed within South Africa's borders. What makes up that land?
It is principally the whole of the Free State, parts of Mpumalanga, parts of KZN, parts of Eastern Cape. And this is a reality because, as you recognize, I'm a descendant of the great King Skonyela or the great Queen Mantatisi, who was a king there. And some of the burial sites of some of those people who are living in Lesotho, they are in South Africa in Fixburg. The grave of my great-grandfather Skonyela is in Eastern Cape. Just to mention, the veracity and the legality of this. And actually, as a matter of fact, we started this as Batlokwa. We started filing our claims with South African Land Restitution Committee or Land Claims Committee in 1998. Our claims are still pending in those courts. So it's not an issue that is in dispute. The territorial boundaries that are due to Basotho land is not even in dispute. Just that the provinces have cut the way they have cut.
Yeah. Now,
that is the
Dr. Lupulo has been accused of running from the law previously. And when we look at he's still awaiting a decision by the High Court regarding his bail application. When do you expect this to be happening? And do you think that he will be given bail? We're just going back to historically, the fact that he has been accused of running from the law.
Our expectation is that he will be given bail, because when the assessment of bail is made, in the first place, you look at the seriousness of the charges. Now, when you assess the seriousness of the charges, you have to go into the details, the reasonable explanation that is given. One of those charges is sedition charges. We have challenged that. We said sedition is where you try to divert the following of the government, the ruling government, to follow you, and say our position is that as the sedition charges do not stand against a political leader and opposition leader in parliament, because by virtue of being opposition leader, you are expected to have your cabinet, your shadow cabinet, because you are going to be government. So your opposition in terms of democratic principles of this Westminster model is that you have to be able to actually have put a constitutional question that sedition charges do not stand.
Yeah.
Secondly, the treason charges. The treason charges actually are also unsustainable, because he is charged for seeking to the land that is in South Africa. Now, it bogs one's mind as to what kind of treason, if he is seeking land that is in South Africa, what business would he have to overthrow the Lesotho government?
Now,
So
Advocate,
the
because of
point-
time, Advocate Sikongela, because of time, I have to just touch on this very quickly. The four gentlemen who were shocked to find themselves on social media, as being wanted for treason. Can you tell us more about them very briefly, and what is happening now with regards to their issue?
Additional treason charges. But our expectations as legal representatives was that they were going to be served with summons, because you can't just appear because a charge has been read that you are part of the list of people that have to be charged. So instead of going to the social media, we expected that the police would actually come to their houses, which is known. Even in the charge, it says they under a certain chief. And serve them with the charges, or otherwise cause us, or ask us to cause them to appear before the court to be able to stand trial. This is why we said, we feel that it was just a political stand to try some of these people who are pastors, have huge congregation, as if they are common and dangerous criminals. And that we thought that it is unfair. That is why we spoke.
All right, Advocate Sikongela, we are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That was Advocate Borena Bukete Butlebusile Sikongela joining us on the line. It is 12:30 Central African Time, and our news headlines up next with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Sudan's army has denied bombing the World Food Programme convoy taking aid to a famine-hit area in the country's Darfur region. South Africa's National Assembly Speaker Togo Didiza has defended the Parliamentary Legal Services Unit from criticism by some of the members of Parliament. They were criticised during a draft of terms of reference of the ad hoc committee that was established to investigate allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi regarding the breach of national security by some senior police officers. And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the latest massive Russian bombardment of his country. He says it has been carried out as if the world is not making effort to stop the war. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Mosibu Dimakura with your latest sports news. At the SAWA for years, East African national teams as well as clubs have struggled to make a mark on the continental stage. However, the ongoing Pamoja 2024 Chan tournament that is jointly hosted by Kenya, Uganda as well as Tanzania has demonstrated that East Africa is ready to compete at the highest level. Now, this is the view of the CAF Technical Study Group, which has been closely monitoring performances at this year's tournament. They made an appearance to share a detailed analysis on the tournament thus far, including tactical trends, player performance patterns, as well as the emerging coaching strategies. All the three co-hosts, meanwhile, have advanced to the quarterfinals, with Kenya, Tanzania, as well as Uganda topping their respective groups, which is a historic feat for the region. On to some rugby news now. The Springboks will kick off their end-of-year tour to Europe with a match against Japan at Wembley Stadium in London on the 1st of November. It will be about 10 years since the last time the two sides met on English soil when Japan beat South Africa in their opening match of the 2015 Rugby World Cup in Brighton in one of the sport's biggest upsets. Meanwhile, the players have also spent their time in Cape Town ahead of the second Rugby Championship match against Australia, dissecting what happened last Saturday. So the much-touted bomb squad is also now determined to earn their keep. Last Saturday, they were missing in action. Both lock Ron Nokia as well as utility back Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu were quite candid about what it is like to operate on a player-centric environment.
Having, the big dogs like Alejandro Pollard here, there's a ladder that you have to climb, and I think just learning from guys like him whilst juggling the act of 12 and 15, I think it only grows my game. And to put on a Bok jersey is special every time. So whether it's a 23 or 22 or 12 or 15 or 10 on my back, 6 on my back, whatever can help the team and help me get a cap for the Springboks.
Now, listening to the players, one learns just how much of a say they do have in planning the plays for match day. A new lock pairing of Archie Snyman as well as Ron Nokia will start with Eben Itzebeth as well as Lou Diaga on the bench. Nokia says the locks meet ahead of a new week to establish the course that will be used for the lineouts.
All of us as locks does the plans together on a Sunday evening, so it's not just the guys that were on the field. It's me, RG, that weren't playing also. So it's just definitely one that we have to take on the chin and just make sure this week we execute our plans much better.
On to some tennis news now. Two-time Grand Slam champion Coco Gauff has parted ways with her coach Matt Daly just days before the US Open is set to begin. The world number 3 split with Daly, a grip expert who she brought on board just last year, replacing him with biomechanics specialist Gavin McMillan. That's according to various reports. Now, McMillan was seen practicing with Gauff, who has yet to address the change herself, should I say, at the US Open in New York. Now, her longtime coach, Jean-Christopher Furel, stays with the team. McMillan is widely credited in the industry for rectifying Aryna Sabalenka's serve. Sabalenka, meanwhile, is currently the world number 1 ranked player. And finally, in golf news, Tiger Woods has been named the chair of the PGA Tour New Future Tournament committee by Brian Rapola, who's the CEO, who's now tasking the 9-person panel to bring significant change to the current model for tournament golf competition. Now, the CEO says the goal is now to optimize the game for the players, the fans, as well as the tour partners. Woods was told to apply for a clean sheet mentality and also invite input from players, the fans, the sponsors, as well as the partners. Fan engagement was amplified under Jay Monahan, and he is now the core tenant for Live Golf, with a popular social media presence driven by Bryson DeChambeau as well as Phil Mickelson, among others. Now, Brian, the CEO, is now looking to widen the PGA Tour presence in those categories while also thinking even bigger. Well, that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour for Channel Africa Sport. I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
She builds, she leads, she rises. This August, join Channel Africa in celebrating the women who shape our communities, shift narratives, and carve out a future on their own terms.
These women together ought to be able to turn it right again.
From Cape Town to Kigali, Lagos to Lusaka, African women are rewriting the script. Here's to courage, creativity, and unstoppable progress. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Business News on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
With your business news at this hour, Matapala Mahabe, good afternoon. More banks are expected to state their case before the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg, South Africa today. This is the third day of the hearing of the alleged currency fixing case. Local and international banks accused of colluding to manipulate the rand-dollar exchange rate say the Competition Commission has failed to make a solid case. Yesterday, Standard Bank alleged that the Commission refused to engage it on allegations against it before releasing its report to the media. Standard Bank representative, Advocate Kate Hoffmeyer, emphasized the financial harm the report has caused.
It told the court that in the moments after that press release in February 2017, when the Commission went to the media before going to any of the banks, the bank's share price dropped 3.8% in the few days after that press announcement. And it indicated that at that time, that drop in share value equated to 8.5 billion rand. That was the prejudice to Standard Bank because the Commission would not engage it at any point prior to the referral.
It is first time a trial in South Africa. Shoppers at Checkers supermarkets could soon be cruising the aisles with smart trolleys. The trolleys let them know how much money they are spending and include in-built payment terminals. Similar high-tech shopping trolleys have been rolled out or piloted in other countries, including Chile via Walmart and the US and Australia through Coles. The pilot comes as ShopRite's upscale Checkers chain ramps up its challenge to Woolworths for South Africa's mid to affluent consumers in the lucrative upmarket market. Onto this now, trade unions, civic groups and pro-Palestine activists are protesting across South Africa today, opposing government's coal exports to Israel amid the ongoing Hamas and Israel conflict. Demonstrations are expected outside the Department of Trade and Industry in several provinces. Protesters claim South Africa's coal supplies fuel Israel's energy need, powering systems used to profile Palestinians and conduct military strike in Gaza. Mamedre Sibei is the president of the General Industries Workers Union of South Africa.
It is the hypocrisy and the treacherous conduct of the South African government in respect to the question of Palestine and, of course, the genocide in Gaza. The fact that you have a government that has, before International Court of Justice, chronicled and detailed the scale of industrial destruction of life, selling coal, a major fuel, to industrial military complex of Israeli genocidal machine after such industrial scale of destruction and death and genocide against the people of Palestine.
And Microsoft's head of artificial intelligence, Mustafa Suleiman, has described as alarming the rise in cases of phenomenon dubbed as AI psychosis. It's a non-clinical term for incidents in which people rely heavily on chatbots such as a Copilot or ChatGPT. They become convinced that something imaginary is real. The BBC's Zoe Kleinman reports.
There's no evidence that AI is conscious, but Microsoft's AI boss warned that it was dangerous for people to believe it was, as its interactions with us become more convincing. Mustafa Suleiman wrote on X that worrying about what he called seemingly conscious AI kept him awake at night. There are already stories of people who become convinced that a generative AI tool is in love with them, that they've unlocked a secret human inside one, or even that one is trying to harm them. Mustafa Suleiman called on the tech industry to share safeguards to prevent people using AI products from being fooled into thinking they were sentient.
And oil prices extended to have gains, helped by signs of a stronger demand in the US. Uncertainty over efforts to end the war in Ukraine is also lending support. Brent crude futures hit a 2-week high in early trade and were up 41 cents to $67.25 a barrel. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 45 cents to $65.16 a barrel. And look at your financial indicators. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 534. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 39. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 32, and in Zambia it's 23 kwacha 29. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 48. Russia, it's 80 rubles 48. India, it's 87 rupees 4. In China, it's 7 yuan 18, and in South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rands 68 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. And look at your commodities. Gold is trading at $3,339 and platinum at $1,326 per ounce, while the price of a Brent crude oil is at $67.32 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Matapela Mahape.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:44 Central African time, and to say thank you to Matapela Mahapi with our business news. And we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, has dismissed allegations of racially motivated attacks in rural and farming communities, as stated in the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report. Our DIRCO calls the claims are inaccurate, citing South African police data from January to March 2025, which recorded 6 murders in farming areas involving farm workers, dwellers and farmers, with no evidence of racial motives. And for more on this, we are joined by Jacques Broodrick, a chief spokesperson for AfriForum Community Safety. Jacques, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Now, Jacques, how do you respond to DIRCO's dismissal of racially motivated attacks in South Africa, as suggested in the 2024 U.S. Human Rights Report?
I think it's very disappointing, and to be frank, it's quite dishonest and misleading by the Department of International Relations to publish something like this. The South African government has once again chosen to choose the path of denialism rather than take responsibility for the hand that they also have in this issue. It's very convenient to look at the last quarter statistics and say that there's no proof. But I can also tell you that these crimes do not get investigated to see whether there were any racial or political intentions. And we've seen over the last decades that there have been numerous cases where this has directly been linked. I mean, you have people like Mr. Ntutoko Chowene, who in 1992 testified that he was influenced by the singing of Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer to commit a farm murder. We have someone like Amanda Platt and her husband Tim, who were attacked on their farm in Pietermaritzburg while she was being stabbed. Her attacker shouted, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." So there are numerous cases where this has clearly been very prevalent, that there were darker motivations behind these than just crime.
Now, Jacques, Have you, as AfriForum, investigated these attacks? And you're giving us evidence of what was said and done at particular incidences. But why is Durko then not accepting this report and these results? And why would they not investigate such cases? Because we are being told that it is a balanced scale in terms of attacks are happening on whether it's black farmers, whether it's colored farmers, it's across the board. So have you specifically identified and investigated and found out from different farmers across the board, across the racial lines, if this is the case?
Well, look, we're not denying that crime in general is a major problem. We're also not denying that the black farmers and the farm workers are also targeted in attacks, and that definitely happens. What we don't tend to see in those attacks are the prolonged hours of torture that you often see that happens when it's a white victim involved. You don't see the levels of extreme brutality necessarily that you see when it's a white farmer or white family members being attacked. So we have to be honest about this. We're also not saying that every single farm attack is motivated by these. There are attacks which are simply robberies and are just criminally motivated. But denying that there are cases where there's something darker to this, refusing to condemn the singing of kill the bird, kill the farmer, refusing to even admit that there is a problem, is very concerning. And I think it's a very dark cloud that's hanging over the African National Congress government's head at this moment.
Now, what do we do now? Because when it comes to that particular song, the courts have decided. How do you then go back and change what the courts have decided? Because now this is something that is out there, and seemingly it's not going to change. What do we do then going forward to ensure that the killings of or the killings in terms of the numbers that are put out there are known, and its exact figures across all racial lines? You speak of long torture and so on. There's so many cases where that can be brought up that we've seen in the media where the same has happened across all racial lines. How do we then work through these issues that you as AfriForum feel are not being dealt with or are not being faced?
It's a very tricky issue, and it can become very divisive, and it's something that we've been trying very hard to avoid over the years. That's why we've been very responsible with the way we've spoken about farm attacks. We've been very responsible and dedicated in how we kept the statistics, but it does get very tricky when government keeps on focusing on false claims that are attributed to AfriForum and things in this regard. What we would like to see is mature and reasonable political leadership. We would like to see the president stepping up and saying, "Stop singing the song. It's inflaming the situation." We see there that it's stoking violence in certain areas. We'd like to see that as a start, and please just admit that this is a problem. You won't find the government denying that there is gender-based violence in South Africa. You won't find them denying that there is rhino horn poaching in South Africa. When someone creates awareness about abalone poaching, no one's going to tell them stop complaining because certain plant species also get poached. No one would think of doing that. No one would tell a gender-based violence activist to keep quiet because actually more men get murdered in South Africa yearly than women do. But when it comes to farm attacks, you get this extreme disconnect and insensitivity to the issue. And that's something that we really need to try and address.
Now, how are you as AfriForum ensuring that the South African Police Services has the correct data and statistics after AfriForum previously highlighted discrepancies?
Yes, so we have a monthly meeting with a statistical task team of the police force where we sit together, we compare our data with theirs, and we discuss these issues. And hopefully that's going to help in the future for us to get on the same page with these things. We see that there is a big problem where many farm attacks are not reported by the police as farm attacks, as per their own definition, as compiled in their rural safety strategy, and that's a problem. So those are the type of things that we need to talk over and discuss. And I believe that there's quite a lot of potential to solve this issue, to tackle it together. Our problem that we face is that we have good working relations with police on ground level and on operational level, but unfortunately there's quite often political interference, and that's the major challenge.
And how do community-driven initiatives support the South African police services, especially on the ground? And what more needs to be done to ensure a successful fight against crime in the country, especially focusing on rural and farming communities?
Well, let me give you an idea. AfriForum has 177 neighborhood and farm watch structures countrywide, with thousands of volunteers who are involved in the safety of their own communities. Now, according to the Rural Safety Strategy, these civilian structures and safety networks need to be worked with in collaboration. Now, unfortunately, that's something that we don't see on a large scale. On ground level, we'll often see that a certain neighborhood watch or certain farm watch has a good working rapport with the local police, but it's not something that we're seeing on a national or provincial level. And that's something that we need to work on. We need to come together. We need to sign official agreements to state how we're going to work together as community safety structures and private security and the police force, because obviously we recognize the police force's authority and the role that they play. But we need to collaborate, and we need to do it openly without political interference.
And Jacques, does this also include, in terms of the numbers that you see on the ground or the neighborhood crime watch system that you're working with and the groupings that you're working with, does this include killings where the perpetrators are the farm owners themselves or farm workers?
We have safety structures. We will respond to any emergency. It doesn't matter what the emergency is or who the victim or the perpetrator is. Our safety structures help wherever they can help. So if there's a case where someone has been brutalized or if there's a murder suspect that we are looking for, whether he's white or black, we will look for him. That's a very big misperception that a lot of people have put out there, and that's not how we do things.
And what further recommendations do you have to address farm attacks?
I think, unfortunately, we're going to have to apply more pressure on government because we see that they are heading in a certain direction, the direction of denialism. We need them to at least admit that there's a problem here. We need to have farm attacks reclassified as a priority crime in the same way that taxi violence is classified as a priority crime, in the same way that illegal mining is classified as a priority crime, because they are unique crimes. We need to push for that. We need government to come on board with that. That will make more resources available and specialized task teams to fight these crimes. So that's one of the things we need to do. The other one is we need to keep creating awareness. We need to get the rural communities more involved in their own safety. It's very important that networks are set up and that people can communicate with each other. And those are some of the focus areas that we need to expand on.
And in terms of the ops meetings or the meetings that you have on a regular basis with the different departments, police, the SAPs, and the Department of Agriculture, and so on. Do you then put these recommendations across, and what sort of response do you get?
Unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier on, we have a good working relationship with the career police officers. They are dedicated, they are hardworking, they are great people. Unfortunately, when we try to bring about real change or formal agreements, then there tends to be political interference from up top. But we will continue stretching out a hand of friendship and a hand of cooperation. We recently, again, reached out to the police commissioner to offer our assistance and to meet with him. And he seemed interested, so we'll see if something comes from that. But the government must not think that communities are going to sit back and simply allow themselves to get murdered and robbed. We're going to fight back against crime. We will do it within the confines of the law and responsibly, but we are definitely not going to sit back.
Well, Jacques, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That was Jacques Broderick, Chief Spokesperson for AfriForum Community Safety, joining us on the line. It is 12:55 Central African Time.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Mhlathuze, brings you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum, Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investments in the trade services sector, such as tourism. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say a happy Thursday to the Upside team, and it is Matsiko Musito. How are you today?
I'm good, and I just cannot believe that it's Thursday already.
I know.
Like, how did we get here?
I've been saying this. The week has literally flown by.
The entire month. It's the 21st of August.
Yeah.
And it always gets exciting on the upside towards the tail end of the week. Okay, it's a Thursday today. We're going to be looking at why mentorship may be the missing link in addressing gender-based violence and social breakdown. So it's a very interesting connection that we're going to be making between mentorship and gender-based violence in our society. We're going to be speaking to Jaco van Skalkwyk, who is the founder of the Character Company. So that's a conversation to look forward to. In other conversations, we're going to be looking at Richards Bay opening its doors to global investors at the TIFA for the year 2025. So we're looking at the city of one of the cities in South Africa. We'll just leave it at that. And then we're going to talk a Tourism Investment Forum Africa as well, TIFA, and then look at, what's happening under that umbrella. So if I were you, I'd stick around. So much more, and that all coming up just after 1.
Well, that's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Matsiko Musito and Tebogo Likuleni. And today on Hashtag Africa Update Ask, we focus on the U.S. announcing additional sanctions on new officials of the International Criminal Court, with the State Department designating 2 judges and 2 prosecutors attached to the Hague-based court. Our question to you is the move to sanction the 4 ICC officials warranted? Let us know your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763, that's 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Ask. It's been a great day. Let's do this again tomorrow. Have a good one.
Africa. It's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K,
or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Tamo kwaduli bwanji ndi
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. SABC News, the African perspective.
Your latest news this hour. I'm Onele Nsinsi. Sudan's army has denied bombing the World Food Programme convoy taking aid to famine-hit areas in the country's